Welcome to Cooking with Glenn and Katie.
Today we are going to be making my dad's famous garlic knots. They are absolutely to die for. Our entire family loves them, our friends love them, and we can't wait to share them with you today. So are you ready to get started?
I am.
All right, let's go.
I'm going to proof the yeast, and I've got some water I put in the microwave for 1 minute, and it is about 110, 113 degrees, 14 degrees. You want it to be below 115 degrees. And then I'm going to add 5 teaspoons of sugar and 1 package, but I use it in bulk. I make a lot of bread. So I've got 1 tablespoon of yeast. Now I'm going to blend this together and I'll let it sit for 10 minutes. As early as you can in the baking process, and I'm doing it while the yeast is proofing, you need to get the olive oil, the butter, and the garlic going so that the garlic has a good amount of time to be able to infuse in the oils. So I've got some olive oil and I use 1/4 cup of olive oil. I put this in here, and this is fresh garlic, and my family loves garlic. So I get the big bag of garlic that's already peeled, but this works just as well. Trust me, this already minced garlic in a container, it works well too. You can get 4 or 5 cloves of garlic. The main thing is that you need to get 3 tablespoons of garlic. And we're going to put 3 tablespoons in here. The oil is hot, and I'm going to stir it around. And you want it to cook until it starts to turn brown. You don't want it to turn brown, but if you see it starting, then you stop. Okay, I see it getting a little bit darker now. And what I'm going to do is put 2 sticks of butter. I've cut them in smaller pieces in tablespoon chunks. I'm going to put this in here, and we'll melt 2 sticks of butter. And you're going to think, wow, that's a lot of butter. And one thing I found is that people love to dip the garlic knots in the excess garlic butter. And so that's what we're doing. We're putting it this way. Now, you can cut back if you want to, but my family, this is perfect for the 24 garlic knots that I'm going to make. Now, if you have, and sometimes you've got some extra leftover garlic goodness, I'll pour it in a little tray like this, or you can put it in any kind of container and put it in your refrigerator. And then you can use the leftovers or the extra on just plain old bread. It makes an excellent spread. So again, it looks like I'm doing a lot, but my family says, "Ba or Dad, don't skimp." And they tell me that every time, don't skimp, because we love a lot. The secret to garlic knots is to have a lot of liquid that after you take a bite, you can dip it in there and get more of that goodness. The butter has melted, and now I'm going to let it sit during the first rise and the second rise so that the garlic can infuse into the butter. Now, I'm not going to add the herbs yet. I'll add that later. I know this is not high tech, but I've got one of these little kitchen timers. I like it because there's so many timed processes I've got. I can talk to Google, or I can talk to Alexa and have them do it, but I love my little timer. Now let's look to see about the yeast. It's nothing worse than having some bad yeast and messing up your whole recipe, but we can tell, look at that. It is active yeast. And so we're good to go on this recipe. So I'm going to add 3 more ingredients to this. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of oil, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and then finally I'm going to put in the 3.5 cups of bread flour. And at this time I'm going to go ahead and start the mixing. And I'm going to start with it on low. And then after just a little bit, I'm gonna move it up to the second speed, move it up a little bit, and it will go for 8 minutes. While the dough is kneading, you need to get 2 pans. This time I'm using 11 by 16 inch pans. I've got them lined with the silicone mat, but you can use parchment paper or you can use oil. I've got this size because they'll fit in the oven on one rack. And also, you'll need 2 slightly dampened towels. It's been 8 minutes, so let's look at the dough. We'll lift this up, and notice that the dough is sticking a little bit down here. And so you don't want it to be sticky, and so I'm going to put in 1 teaspoon of bread flour. I'll continue to do that until it's not sticking anymore. Okay, we're looking here and I think it's fine. It's not too sticky at all. I'll pull this off. Now I'm gonna put it on a mat. I've got a mat here. You can put on just put on your counter. But when I lift it up, notice it's not sticky. So when you push down, when you fold it like this and bring it in, you don't want anything to stick here. If it's sticking at this point, you can dust with just a little bit of flour and knead it just a little bit until it's not sticky anymore. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my hands and I'm gonna make kind of a log out of this. And I want everything to be about the same width here. And now I'm gonna start pressing it. I'll press it out. And I can feel the thickness as I'm pressing. So I'm going to kind of square this up like this. I'm going to press it some more. It's 12 inches long and it's 5 inches wide. And so I'm gonna cut this into 12 pieces. And to do this, I'm putting the ruler here and I'm gonna cut it at the 6-inch mark. And then I'm gonna cut it at the 3-inch mark on both sides here. Basically, I can just eye it. I don't need to have the ruler anymore. So I'll do that. And then I'll cut the pieces into 3 pieces, each of these. And I like to use a pizza cutter because it's easy to cut and I can keep my lines straight. And now I'll take the pieces and I'll place them on the pan. I'll place 6 on here. Put 3 on this side. Like this. I kind of stretch it a little bit as I put it on the pan. Put one there. One there. And one here. And I do the other pan exactly the same way. I put my oven at 350 for 1 minute to kind of warm up the oven. It's a cold day today in Charlotte. And then I warmed the 2 towels. I'm gonna put a towel on each one. I put them in the microwave for 30 seconds. Now before I put these in the oven, I'm gonna turn the oven off. That's very important. We just wanted it to be heated just a little bit. And now I'm gonna put these on the top rack. Put one there. And notice that they sit side by side. It's been 15 minutes, and so I've taken the dough out of the oven. Let's look at it. It's about doubled in size. And while I work on it, I'm gonna keep the bread covered and just take the piece I'm working with. I've got another piece of dough, and I'm gonna kind of stretch it down a little bit. Like let it hang, and then I lay it on the counter, and I spread it out so it's about the same diameter all the way down. And once it is, I'm gonna start rolling like this. And if you see an area that's a little bit thinner, like right here, I'll stay away from that area and I'll roll on the rest of it because I don't want to get too thin. And ultimately, you want it to be about 2 feet. That's one, that's another one. So I'm going to loop it like this. I'm going to bring the 2 sides here so that I can use a pair of scissors and cut it in half. And now I've got 2 pieces of dough the same size. Now to make the knot, you will take it like this and you bend it over your fingers and make like you're tying something that looks like a tie. Then to make it a knot, I'm gonna put this bottom part over on the top and this top part on the bottom. And that area that's a hole, I'm gonna press it together so it makes it into a garlic knot. I'm gonna loop it around my finger. I'll come like this. Notice there's a big hole here. And I'm gonna take the bottom piece and put it over the top, and the top piece over the bottom, and then it's gonna seal. So you've got a complete knot. I finished making the 24 knots. Let's look at this tray of 12. It will spread out so you can only get about 12 on each tray. Feel free, if you see one that's not exactly round, you can manipulate it like that. You can kind of move it a little bit to make it more rounded, but pretty much these are in pretty good shape. I'm going to put these trays in the oven. I've got it warmed at 350 degrees. I did that for about a minute. I'm going to turn it off and put the knots in the oven and let them sit for 5 minutes. And then we'll take them out and put them on top of the stove. They'll stay warm, and I'm going to preheat the oven to 500 degrees. It's been 5 minutes. Now I'm going to turn the oven up to 500 degrees. So I'm going to bake 500. It will take about 15 minutes for my oven to preheat. And so these, even though they've only been in the oven for 5 minutes, they will sit another 15 minutes on this warm oven top. The oven's preheated about every 5 minutes until the oven preheated. I will take the towels off, put them in the microwave, warm them up a little bit. Now it's time to put the knots in the oven. We will cook them for 5 minutes. Then we'll take them out and put some garlic butter on top of them, and then put them back in the oven for another 8 minutes. It's been 5 minutes and I have the garlic knots out of the oven, and so you can look at this. The reason we do that is it gives it kind of a little hard shell. If you put the buttery mixture on top before you bake them, the garlic knots just swell up real big, and you don't want them to swell up. And so this is what has been sitting for probably 45 minutes now. I dip my brush and then I tap it in the top part up here because it can hold it. And then I barely put down the butter because it's going to go all the way down. I'll do this one right here. So you don't want to put too much butter on it. So when you first take it out, you put it in the center, kind of dab it, and then spread it out. Again, you're doing it lightly. You don't want to have too much butter at this point. Later on is where the butter mixture really comes in handy. And all we're putting on here is the garlic infused butter. I will do the same thing on the next tray, and then we'll put them in the oven for 8 more minutes, but I reduced the temperature to 450 degrees when I took the trays out of the oven. Now I'm going to be putting the herbs in the buttery solution. I don't do it until now because if I paint the top of it with oil and herbs, it kind of burns a little bit, so there's no need to put them when you do the first bake or the second bake. But now it's time, when we take it out, we're going to be putting a lot on there, and we'll put the herbs in there. And so I've got a nice herb garden, and so I have got a mixture of thyme and oregano. I've got 1 tablespoon of that, and I've got 1 tablespoon of parsley. I've got them all mixed in, so that's 2 tablespoons. 1 teaspoon of dried is equivalent to 1 tablespoon of fresh. If you use dry, you will use 1 teaspoon, but I'm putting 1 tablespoon of an oregano and thyme mixture. So I'm gonna put this in first. I like to put 1 teaspoon of coarse ground pepper, and I can stir this together. And you can make this any way you want to make it. One thing my family loves is jalapenos. And so this is 1 jalapeno. It's about a tablespoon or so of jalapeno chopped up. I'm gonna put this in here too. I'll probably bring it up to the boiling point, and then I will take it off the burner. These are fresh out of the oven. I put them on the upper middle rack because you don't want it to be too dark. You want them to have the golden brown top. You don't want them to have you don't want it to be too dark. And these are just perfect, and this is how they've turned out. You need to put the butter on the garlic knots right before you serve them, and so I'm ready to eat one, so let me do one. I've got one here, and I'm going to get into the goodie. I'm going to put a lot of garlic, and what I like is that you've got a little depression here, so you can put some, and then you want to put butter on it until you see butter accumulating underneath it, because you want butter to be able to drip down here, so when you eat it you can dip it in there. So this is about right. It's time for me to taste one of the garlic knots, and here we go. Beautiful. It pulls apart. I'll just break it apart like this, and like my kids say, dab it in there, Dad. So I'm gonna dab it in there. See how delicious it looks, and I'm gonna taste it. Wow. The texture's good. I like the chewiness of it, and the garlic mixture, butter, oil, is perfect.
Dad was so sweet. Currently, I am a little bit lactose intolerant, so he made my garlic knots with no butter and just with olive oil. So when he coated the garlic knots for me before putting it in the oven for the second bake, he just did the same thing he did with the butter, the garlic infused butter. He did that though with olive oil for me, and then did the same process using olive oil at the very end to make this beautiful product. Oh my goodness, is that not absolutely gorgeous? Now it's time for me to taste. Oh my goodness. That's amazing. Tastes just like I'm eating at the fanciest Italian restaurant, trying these wonderful garlic knots. The olive oil is excellent, that the herbs that Dad used, the garlic, everything together is just perfect. And he's completely right. It's nice to have that drenching because I'm gonna go ahead and tear my rest of the garlic knot apart and start dipping into the olive oil and just let it saturate all the flavors into the inside part of the garlic knot. Just enjoy, but definitely 2 thumbs up for these.
Well, Katie, what did you think?
They were absolutely fantastic, just as they always are. This is one of my favorite recipes, one of my favorite treats to have with our meals. So please be sure to try them. Your family and your friends will love them. You'll love them as well. So we truly appreciate you guys taking the time to join us today and learn this recipe. If you have any feedback or if you get to try the recipe, please be sure to comment below and don't forget to leave a thumbs up for us. And if you haven't subscribed, please be sure to do so. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you're updated on all of our new videos. We were recently looking at our analytics for our YouTube channel, and we found that over 90% of our viewers are actually not subscribed. So we would love for you to join our Cooking with Glenn and Katie family by subscribing. So if you wouldn't mind, take just a minute and click that subscribe button. But yeah, we will see you with our next video then. See ya.